If you're anything like me, you probably have an eBay store doing somewhere between a few hundred to a few $1,000s a month. And if you're anything like me, you might have actually seen some changes over the past month or two since the beginning of the new year. Today, what I'm going to talk about is one, some changes that are happening on platform on eBay that might be actually messing up your store a little bit. And two, I'm going to be talking about some changes that are just happening on a broader level in the online selling marketplaces that you might want to be aware of, and that might affect how you buy and what you choose to sell. On top of that, I'm going to also go over a few items, well, a bunch of items that I've been getting over the past week or so, and I might not go through every single item super quick in detail, but it'll give you an idea of some stuff that I'm buying right now, brands that I'm looking out for, items that I'm looking out for as well. On that note, I hope that you're having a wonderful day. My name is Alicia Israel, and let's get into it. So at the beginning of the year, I started to notice that I was seeing a really big slowdown on my eBay store. It took me a week or two to realize it. I thought at first it was just fatigue. You know, people had spent a bunch of money over the holidays, and they weren't just really interested in spending that much money shopping online. And so after a couple weeks, though, I started to look a little bit closer, and I noticed that there's a really big change that has happened on eBay. Now, it's something that probably you are adjacently aware of. It happens every year, but I actually do think it's creating a pretty big difference for a seller and even for a buyer. Now, before I get into it, I want to actually share a couple cool items that I got the other day. So I got this right over here. This is a Vera Wang Wedgwood lace bone china dish set. I was at a store and they had 5 of these. They were listed, or they had them priced at around $50 each. Here's a little bit of a picture of what it looks like. So they had them priced around $50 each, and I was like, that's a little bit high. I looked them up online. They were selling anywhere from around $60 to $140 in new open box condition. So I was like, all right, $50 doesn't make sense to me. But I bought all the other stuff that I got while I was there, and then I said, hey, like, what happens if I buy more than one of these? And at first they were like, well, you can do $10 each. And I was like, they're listed at $50. I was like, oh, and they were like, oh no, not $10. How about $30? And I thought about it, and I went ahead and I got them. So that's 5 of these Vera Wang Wedgwood dish sets. They're a 5-piece dish set, like a plate, a couple saucers, etc., like a salad dish and a little saucer cup. I got those for $30 each. I would expect at minimum I'm going to get $60 to $80 each on them. I have them listed at $140 plus shipping. We'll take offers on them. I got 5 of them. That was a pretty great deal. Another fun item, and this is something that I would love to do a little bit more of this, and I'm not even sure if I'm actually going to sell this, but this right over here is a Stephen King book. This is called Firestarter, and this is actually a first edition. It's not in that great condition. Like, it still has the jacket, but there's a little bit of a stain over here. There's a little bit of wear on the jacket, but you know, it's all there. There's a little bit of staining on the back. I would expect, I think I got this book for $1, and I would expect that I'll be able to sell it for around $15 to $25. If it was in much better condition, this would go for around $60 to $100. And last, if you watch reseller type stuff on YouTube, you've probably seen people talk about these kinds of things. So this right over here is a Spectrum Master Railroader series from Bachmann. I got this for $60. It'll sell for about $150 to $250, somewhere in that range. And it is a model train. And if you know, train collectors are a very special breed of people who absolutely love finding the trains that they collect. And they're extraordinarily willing to pay up for it. So this one I spent $60 on this. I still need to list it. It'll be listed on my eBay store by the time this video is live. So if that's something that you do, if you collect trains, it'll be on the store. I don't really have any other train stuff right now. They're a little bit difficult to find, but when I find them, I absolutely love finding them. What is it exactly that's going on eBay, on the platform, that is actually making such a significant change since the beginning of the year? Why are people's sales going down? Why are you seeing a lot of the smaller resellers saying, hey, like, I'm not seeing any sales? Well, if you're not aware, the post office actually raised their prices by 5% at the beginning of the year. Now, while that doesn't really make that much of a difference for us when we're buying the discounted price as a seller through eBay's platform, the reality is that on the front end for a consumer, their prices have changed a lot, by about $1 to $1.50. Now, I usually sell a lot of stuff that's like 1 pound ground advantage. So usually or 8 ounces to 1 pound ground advantage. So usually my cost for me to buy the shipping label is between $4.50 to $6.50. And what I've seen recently before, like let's say I was selling something that was 1 pound ground advantage, and what I saw before the new year was that for the customer, it would be priced something along the lines of between 5 and some change, or between 6 and some change, and maybe 7 and some change would be what the customer was paying. Now, recently, what I'm seeing is their price for 1 pound ground advantage that the consumer is seeing when they're on eBay, it starts as low as $8.50, and it says $8.50 to $9, or sometimes higher. So what we're actually seeing is that there's a fairly significant cost being passed on to the consumer. And this is likely true on most platforms, although some platforms like Poshmark that have flat rate shipping for certain weights, so you're not going to see it as much. But for platforms where you're doing calculated shipping, your consumers, your customers, when they're looking at your products, they're seeing significantly higher prices. Now, I ran a couple tests to check if this is what it actually was, because I thought it was just consumer fatigue at the beginning of the year. And I was like, well, hey, if it's actually a price resistance thing for the things that I'm selling, then let me do a little bit of a test. And I'll tell you about that test in just a second. Let me show you a couple more cool things. So this right over here is a Logitech K800 keyboard. I got this for $3.95. So this is an interesting one because it has both a charging cable and then they have like a specialized little Logitech receiver that you have to plug in order for this to work. So what I'm seeing online is that selling this without the receiver or a charging cable, just as long as it turns on, you can actually get around 50 to 60 bucks for this. Maybe on a lucky day, 70 to 75. But you can sell this as long as it turns on and there's no damage to it for around $50 to $75 without the receiver. If you wanted to, you could buy the receiver off of Amazon for around $15 to $20, and you might end up selling it for $80 to $120. But this Logitech K800 keyboard, if you wanted to sell it just as long as there's no damage on it, as long as everything works with it, then you're able to actually sell it for around $50 to $70 like this without the receiver. So nice little buy right over here for $3 or $3.95. Now, a lot of what I sell is in pre-owned condition, but there's somebody locally who I follow on Instagram, and I saw that they had posted about them going to a store called a GTM store. I hadn't heard about them. It's basically overstock, and you can go there, you can get all different kinds of overstock. A lot of the stuff, there wasn't that much there, to be honest. Like, I think that on a good day, you might be able to find some stuff there, but the day that I was there yesterday, I didn't really see all that much. But I did find these pair of shoes. So if you don't know, Adidas actually has a pair of shoes, a sub-brand called Terrex, T-E-R-R-E-X. They're really high-quality hiking shoes, and they seem to be very popular. So I ended up getting these for, I think it was around 25 bucks or so, give or take. But these will sell. I saw multiple listings of them selling between 50 to 75 plus shipping. So for 25 bucks, it was the only thing that I got at that store. I don't know if I would go back to that store a ton, but every once in a while, just popping in to see if there's something. These were a pretty decent buy in my opinion. And it's also nice because if you can get stuff that you can sell new, obviously you're going to be open to a wider range of people rather than the people who are only buying pre-owned. I have sold these exact shoes, different colorway, but the Adidas Terrex shoes before, they sell well, and pre-owned they're probably only $20 to $30, but in new condition about 60 to 70. So what was this test that I ran? What was it that I was like, okay, well, I'm not sure what's going on with my store. I know that my sales have dropped a lot. What was the test that I ran? Well, I decided to run a sales event. I was like, hey, look, if price is an issue, especially for me, I sell a lot of stuff in like the $15 to $40, $50 range. If price is an issue with these items where people are looking at it and they're seeing, oh, the shipping is higher, well, let me run a sale and see if that impacts my sale. So I went ahead and I ran a 30% off sale on my eBay store. If you don't know how to do that, you can go into the promotions tab. If you're interested in me making a video to show you how to do that, drop a comment below and I will do that. But I was like, hey, look, if there's price resistance, then let me see what's going on. And remember, there is a second element that we're going to get to in a little bit, which it's not just what we're talking about with shipping. There is a second element that, especially for lower end items, I think is creating significant friction in the marketplace as on platforms like eBay, on platforms like Poshmark, etc. But we'll talk about that towards the end of the video. So I was like, okay, well, if the issue is price resistance, well, let me play with the price. So I ran a 30% off sale, and immediately my sales started picking up. And that to me confirmed that what I was seeing was a combination of what I'll talk about in a little bit, as well as the fact that the shipping prices and the change in the shipping price, and sometimes though that price going up by somewhere between $1.50 to $3 per item for a customer, has created a pretty significant change in buyer behavior. And so with that in mind, I just want to make sure that you understand that a lot of the things that you've been selling for maybe $20, you might have to start selling for around 15 to 18 to offset that change in shipping. And so that means when you're buying stuff, you have to think about that. You might not be able to spend $8 to sell an item for $20 anymore. You might not be able to spend $10 to sell an item for $25 anymore. I mean, you can, the margin is fine, but you might need to start being a little bit more intentional. If you are doing that lower margin model where you want to potentially have a lot of different products and have a big store, and you want to make sure that you have a lot of different stuff available so any day of the week somebody can find something on your store, well then you might want to be a little bit more price sensitive when you're buying. You might want to say, hey, yeah, I normally would buy this at $8 and sell it for $25, but right now with what I'm seeing in the market, I might only get $18 for it plus shipping, so maybe I would only buy that if I saw it for $3 or $4 or $5. And that might mean that you might have to get a little bit savvier with where you're sourcing. Just something to be aware of, especially if you're operating in that like $15 to $30 item range where people are still fairly price sensitive. You know, you start to get into more specialized items where it's something like higher end technical clothes, or it's something like a collector's item. It's something like this train or a first edition book, etc. Like with that kind of stuff, the buyer is buying it for the item, not just for the convenience of having the item and not paying full price for it. You know, for example, if they're just buying like a new fleece or something, like a new North Face fleece, although those don't really sell for that much on the secondary market. But anyways, this is just something that you want to make sure that you're aware of when you're looking at your buying patterns, when you're looking at your store. And it might be something where you can test it on your own and run a little bit of a sale to see if your sales pick up, and if it's because of the fact that you might have been priced correctly before, but with some of the changes to shipping prices, you may not be priced correctly for the market right now. So for this next part, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to quickly fly through a bunch of items that I got. I'm not going to go into too much detail per item, but I'm going to just show you a bunch of different stuff that I'm getting, what I'm buying right now, what I'm paying for it, what the brands are, etc., just to be a little bit helpful for you. 3 bags. There's a lot more, don't worry. First up, this is a brand that I like to sell. It's not anything too crazy. It's a brand called X Officio. It is an outdoor kind of nylon hunting, fishing, outdoorsy brand. This is definitely an older tag from them. I got this for $4, with this being snap buttons rather than regular buttons. You know, with that keyword, I would expect that this will sell for $19.95 plus shipping all day. It might take a month or two to sell, but that's fine. This is a modern Wrangler red. Normally wouldn't buy Wrangler too much, but this is a pearl snap Western shirt. And if you're paying too much attention to pop culture, I mean, like Beyonce's putting out some country songs and doing a lot of Western stuff. Louis Vuitton, Pharrell is doing a lot of Western stuff. Pearl snap is always a very strong keyword. Snap button stuff generally is a strong keyword. Good stuff to be buying now. There are going to be a lot of the t-shirts that I'm buying right now. I'm kind of building up a pile because I want to do a whatnot sale just specifically for t-shirts, and we'll talk about whatnot in a little bit and some of the changes that I think that's creating in the marketplace. But this is just a regular Gildan t-shirt, but I thought this was funny. I might actually keep it. It's got Vader and Walt Disney, and it has Walt Disney saying to Vader, "I am your father," and Vader being no. I thought this was funny. I'm probably going to keep this for myself. Just another fun Star Wars t-shirt, nice suit Vader. I bet that cost you an arm and a leg. That'll definitely be in a whatnot sale. Jordan brand navy blue polo. Very simple, very nice and easy. I paid $6 for it. It's Jordan dry fit men's large, probably $19.95 plus shipping. My Hero Academia t-shirt. These usually sell for around $10 on eBay, but I just think that in a whatnot sale, there's going to be somebody who really likes anime, and that will be for them. Over here, so this is something where we're going to be talking a little bit about Hawaiian shirts today. There's going to be a few of them popping up. This is a brand called Jamaica Jacks. They are not like anything crazy in terms of value. This is like a standard like blue Hawaiian palm print Most of their shirts, so the thing that I like about them is most of their shirts are 100% silk. This one, 100% silk, probably $17.95 plus shipping. Will take about a month or two to sell, especially going into spring. This is Bonobos. Good brand, not crazy. This is a nice little floral blue short sleeve button-down shirt. Got it for $4. Well, because this is a slim fit and more of like a performance material, I will likely list this for $19.95. Expect to probably get $15 for it. Orvis. This is a nice plaid short sleeve, men's, I think 2XL. Yeah, and $4. Probably list this for somewhere between $14.95 to $17.95 plus shipping. Nothing crazy, easy work. Ted Baker. So Ted Baker is a brand that I really do like to sell, but at the same time, oops, there you go. I really do like to sell it, but it never sells for what I think it will. Some of their more bold prints will sell for more. I got this one for $4. This is just a short sleeve kind of dotted geometric print button down. Probably will sell this for $17.95 plus shipping. A pair of olive army green joggers from a brand called Prana. Prana is really big in like the outdoorsy hiker community. It's not like as high end as a Patagonia or something like that, but something like these will sell for $15 to $25, give or take. This is a Mexico jersey, football jersey, soccer jersey. Great colors, etc. Probably will list this for around $30 to $40, and I got this for $5. This is a Under Armour 2XL Wisconsin Badgers football jersey. It is the Forever Forward line, and it is authentic. I was seeing these, I looked them up, these sell for around $60, give or take, and I got this for $18. So this is Lucky Brand. Lucky Brand can be hit or miss. Their basic t-shirts or the stylized t-shirts will sell for around 10 to 18, give or take. This right over here is like an Aztec print 3/4 sleeve hoodie. Perfectly fine. Sell it $19.95 plus shipping. Will not have any issue getting that. This is another brand that I really like. This is a brand called Nat Nast. So this one is actually a silk cotton blend. A lot of their stuff is pure silk, 100% silk. But overall, Nat Nast, their shirts, like their basics like this, will go for around 15 to 25-ish. But if you can find their bowling shirts, which will, usually be like a single pattern and then maybe have like a striped thing over here. I look up bowling shirts, it's a great keyword. If you can find their silk bowling shirts, those will go for 40 to 60. Going back to the Western theme, this is a vintage Wrangler. And you could tell just by the wash tag. It's just an older one. It's plaid Western shirt, pearl snap. Probably list this for somewhere in like the $19.95 to $29.95 range. Both that one and this one I got for $4 each. This is the same thing, but this is from Lucky Brand. Lucky Brand dungarees. Oops. Here's the tag. Lucky Brand. Western shirt, pearl snap. If you can get those in like the $3 to $6 range, you should be pretty okay with those. Even if you're selling them for $19.95 plus shipping, that's perfectly fine. So I said after I went through these bags that I would start to talk about what the other broader issue is that is happening in the online selling community right now, especially with pre-owned clothes. And it's something that I think a lot of people are aware of, but they're not really thinking about how it's actually impacting them. As you're likely aware, live selling has started to really grow with apps like Whatnot, where people are able to just hop on a stream really quickly, go through their inventory. Now, as you're also likely aware, some of the problems that are happening on Whatnot is that if you're a smaller seller and you don't have an audience built in, yeah, you can kind of grind your way through a bunch of inventory and build an audience, but it's a little bit easier if you have a big audience, a big YouTube or whatever, where you can promote it and get a bunch of people to come to your show. But if you don't have those people, then you're just basically going to have to prepare a show, kind of like what I was talking about, how I'm grabbing a bunch of cheap, interesting t-shirts just to kind of get my feet wet on that platform. But the broader issue that I'm seeing is that with a lot of the stuff that's happening on these live selling platforms, a lot of the lower dollar items are selling there rather than on eBay. A lot of the $5, $10, $50, well, maybe not $5, but a lot of the $10 to $20 items that somebody might have previously been selling on eBay, now they're saying, hey, I'm getting this for $1 to $4. Let me just run it on Whatnot, or maybe even less. And they're just saying, let me just run it on Whatnot. Maybe I'll get $5 for it, and I paid $2 for it, but I'm perfectly fine with that because it's gone, and I don't have to wait 2.5 months for it to sell on eBay. So this is something that I'm seeing is happening a lot, and I think is really impacting that lower part of the market. A lot of the $15 to $20 items that you might have been getting at your local thrift store for $2 or $3, and it's a perfectly fine margin. But at the same time, there are just enough sellers now who are selling that not on eBay. And as the consumer starts to recognize that, and as platforms like Whatnot grow, that behavior is only going to continue to grow. And I think that that's putting a lot of pressure on platforms like eBay and on eBay sellers when they're selling a lot of those lower dollar items, because now a certain segment of the population knows, I don't need to go to eBay. I can just go on to Whatnot and find a seller that has the kind of stuff that I like and just hang out and see a bunch of cool stuff. Now, the thing is, though, this is not just a Whatnot problem. If you don't know, eBay has been testing eBay Live for over a year, if not longer. They have sellers in sports cards who have been doing eBay Lives. For example, Burbank Sports Cards has an eBay Live presence and has been doing eBay Lives near daily for a year and a half. What about Poshmark? Poshmark has been doing Poshmark Lives as well. So this concept of live selling, which allows a seller, and it's great for a seller if they have a decent enough audience, it allows a seller to very quickly go through their inventory and move inventory very quickly. So even if they're not making top dollar per item, they are actually able to move through profitably, ideally, their inventory very quickly, which means they can buy more often and sell more often, which means that they can move a lot more volume and make more money. So it's very beneficial for the sellers when they have the audience in place to do it. But to act as if this is just a Whatnot problem, to act as if this is just something that's only happening on that one application, is not looking at the full picture. You have Whatnot, you have Poshmark Live, you have eBay Live. Now, these tools might not be available to every single seller. And the reality is that sellers are not necessarily, who don't have a big audience, are not necessarily going to be prepared to use these tools yet. But the reality is that this is going to only continue to expand. You know, eventually there will be a situation where every single eBay seller will be able to just hit go live and sell on eBay. Eventually, eBay will have a system where they incentivize the best sellers to be seen more on the platform with or without an audience. Eventually, there will be a situation where you will be able to live sell whether or not you have a big audience or not. So these are all things that are impacting already a lot of the lower dollar stuff, and eBay is becoming more of a specialized platform. It's becoming better for something like this keyboard or this train set. The kind of items that people are actively seeking, rather than just a lot of the normal everyday stuff that a lot of us sell day in and day out on eBay. Is eBay still going to be one of the biggest platforms for that? 100% yes. But if you think that it's not already impacting your bottom line, and you think that it was just the shipping changes that caused your store to slow down in the beginning of January and probably at the end of last year, it's not. Live selling is here, and it is making a very big impact on a lot of those lower dollar items. If somebody goes to the Goodwill bins and they pay $20 for a bag of stuff, would they rather just throw it up on a live stream and make $70 off of it and have it gone that day? Or would they rather spend an hour and a half getting it all listed onto eBay and waiting 3 months for it to sell so that they can make $120? Like, they're going to sell it that same day. They're going to get rid of it as quickly as possible. And so, especially for a lot of the lower dollar stuff, because the thing is, you know, if you have a specialized item, you're not going to want to run it in a live selling app, because you're not going to get that same value as if you waited. If you have a collector's item, if you have a sealed Pokemon game or something like that, you know, Pokemon Blue Sealed or whatever, you're not going to want to do that on Whatnot generally, unless you have a big audience that loves that kind of stuff, because the fact of the matter is you're not going to get the same amount as if you just put it on eBay and waited. But for a lot of the smaller stuff, the $15, $20 items, there is a lot of incentive, even if you only sell it for $7, $8. I mean, these items that I'm buying for $4, for $3, etc., the t-shirts that I'm buying for $2, I'm more than happy to say, hey, let me run it on Whatnot, let me build up an audience there, and build up a reputation as somebody that not only has good inventory, but also ships quickly and takes good care of my people. Because you know what? I might sell the $2 item for $3, but then I get myself a new customer, and I can do that over and over and over again if I can do the margins right. So this is the kind of thing, and as you get those new customers and you do more giveaways and you build your followers on those platforms, all of that's going to eventually build up. So this is something that I think people need to be really aware of, and I don't think a lot of people are recognizing just how impactful the live selling environment is on the lower end, especially with the pre-owned clothes market. I'm not going to go through every single thing that I got here. I'm going to quickly just go through some of these bags. I'm going to pull out some of the more interesting items, and then I'm going to wind down the video because I want to respect your time. But I just wanted to just say thank you for taking the time out of your day to watch this video. I'm going to show you a couple more cool brands that you may or may not have heard of, and then we'll wind it down. Give me a second. Right over here, this is Denim and Supply. This is a Ralph Lauren sub brand. I believe it's a retired brand. This is a pair of like floral, red chino style shorts. I got these for $1 because of the color. It was a $1 sale day at that store for those colors. Theory, pretty high-end brand. Ideally, you want to look for their stuff that has a specialized material. A lot of their stuff can have a specialized material. I believe this one is a cotton shirt. Still $15 to $25. No big deal. I think I spent $3 on it. This is one that I haven't sold before, but I think the comps are pretty good. The brand is called Stephen Allen. It's just a kind of plaid check. Nice colorful shirt. If I remember correctly, this was going for around $40. I mentioned this brand before. This is what their newer tags look like. This is Ex Officio. This is also their Buzz Off Insect Shield sub-brand. These are a pair of convertible nylon outdoors hiking, fishing pants, etc. Probably $19.95 plus shipping. This is the Justin Bieber Purpose Tour from 2016. And on the back it's got that "My Mama Don't Like You." I think these were selling for around $40 on eBay, give or take. This is a brand that you've probably seen a bunch, depending on where you live, but you probably haven't bought yet, and you should. It's a brand called Marine Layer. This is just a simple t-shirt, simple striped burgundy maroon pocket t-shirt. Marine Layer is just a very easy brand to sell. It's not going to be crazy money, somewhere probably $15 to $20 for that. But it is a brand that I like to sell. It's very consistent. Sometimes, with this next item, sometimes when something seems interesting, even if you don't know it, it's good to look it up. This is a brand called Anoki. And it's like an almost like Indian style, like geometric tunic dress. Very like boho, loose fitting, etc. I think I saw that these were selling in pre-owned condition for around $30 to $50. I didn't know it, but I thought it seemed interesting and looked it up, and it was. So here is another Ted Baker shirt. Now, the thing that's interesting about this one is, one, it's got an interesting print, but two, this is also a linen shirt. So this one will probably go for around $40 to $60 compared to the other one that was just a basic cotton shirt, which I said would go for $15 to $20. All right, let's talk about Levi's real quick. Honestly, most Levi's, not worth your time. This right over here is a pair of Levi's 501. Why did I buy them? So, a couple things. They have the red tab, which is going to be normal, but good to include that in the keyword. But the thing that's actually really interesting, well, before that, these are also button fly, not like zip, so that's another good keyword. But the thing that's really interesting is that, let's see if you can see this. These are Levi's 501, and right down here it says made in Mexico. Now, Levi's were originally made in the USA. And then in the 90s, they stopped making them in the USA. And the first place that they made them that wasn't in the USA was in Mexico. They made them in Mexico from the mid-90s until the early 2000s. And then after that, they started to make them elsewhere. Cambodia, everywhere else that they make them nowadays. You can look at all the different tags. So by the strictest definition of the word, with vintage being older than 20 years or older, these are a pair of khaki distressed vintage Levi's button fly jeans. Probably expect to get 30 to 50 for those. 50 I think is very ambitious. I said before that I would talk about Hawaiian shirts. We're going to talk about that now. There's two main things to look for with Hawaiian shirts. First, material. So if they're silk, they're generally going to be worth buying. You know, a Tommy Bahama silk shirt. Like if it's rayon, you're probably not going to want to buy it. The second thing to look out for is the print, the design on them. This right over here is Diamond Head Sportswear. It's a fun Hawaiian shirt with the car, very loud, very colorful, bunch of cars on it. I think this goes for around $40. This is, I believe, a vintage shirt as well. It is single stitch. So yes, this is just a vintage Hawaiian shirt. Loud. This is not silk, I don't believe. Although it actually kind of feels like it. It might be. But I think that tag, the wash tag, is not there anymore. But this is a loud enough print that it will do well. Again, going on the print thing. Joe Kealuha's. I believe this is a Rain Spooner collaboration, which is also another good brand to keep an eye out. Super loud, fun Hawaiian print with cars and surfers and ships and boats and all of that kind of stuff. Might be easier to show it this way. But yeah, these kind of very loud Hawaiian prints. Also ones that have a lot of specific animals or ones that have specific fruit on them can do really well. For example, like pineapples. People like to wear ones that have specific kinds of stuff on them. So even if the material isn't great, like if it's cotton, if it has something like that, then you should be okay. This is Citizens of Humanity. Their men's wear. Just a pair of black jeans, and it's the Evans. Usually they'll have right there the Evans. If I remember correctly, these go for around $29.95 plus shipping. This is a brand that you would think does great. I've had a hard time with it. Anthropology. So Anthropology has a ton of sub-brands, but oftentimes some of their more basic stuff, like this is just a pair of green, kind of army green pants. Sometimes some of their more basic stuff sells a lot slower than you would think. I did get this for $1 because of the dollar tag sale that day, so I would grab it. I don't expect I would get more than 15 to 20 for these. But Anthropology does have an entire world of sub-brands. So if that is something where you're interested in it, I'm sure there are blogs that you can find. I don't know too much about that, so I'm not going to tell you what is and isn't good Anthropology. But it is definitely something where there is a very high ceiling with Anthropology sub-brands. They're not always named. Like, they won't always be titled Anthropology. They might have a different name. But in their kind of universe, there are a lot of stuff that can be extremely high value, but a lot of their basics don't sell for that much. Anyways, hope you're having a wonderful day. Hope that this has been helpful for you. Hopefully you learned a couple things. Hopefully this helps you with your store. You know, one thing, be a little bit mindful of readjusting your prices or maybe running a sale to clear out some older inventory just to offset some of the increases in shipping prices. Even though while you're buying your labels, the shipping price might not have changed significantly for you, your customers are seeing a pretty significant change on the front end when they're paying for your items. So if you are doing calculated shipping, just recognize that you may have to adjust some of your pricing with new inventory and run some sales on older inventory in order to kind of bridge that gap. And then second, just recognize that live selling is here, and a lot of the lower dollar items are going to be moving more and more into live selling environments, and that a lot of the platforms are going to be, a lot of like the platforms like in eBay, the marketplaces, are going to be more and more for specialized items that you maybe don't want to sell in an auction environment where you want to wait and get top dollar for them. So these are just things to keep an eye out for when you're planning going forward. You know, I would say Whatnot is a platform that I want to put more energy into it. As I said, I have been buying a bunch of just $2-3 t-shirts that, you know, like the My Hero Academia t-shirt, which I don't think I'll get more than $6 for, but there might be somebody that's super happy because that's their favorite show. So, you know, if I can do that and I can get a happy customer and then over time build a reputation as somebody that just has good stuff for decent prices and that I ship well, to me, it's worth it for me to put a little bit of time and energy into building out that audience. So with that in mind, I don't have an exact date. I'll probably record another video if I do have an exact date in order to make sure that you're updated. But also, I'll have my Instagram link down below as well as my eBay store. So if you wanted to follow me on either of those on Instagram or on eBay, I'll also put my Whatnot down below so that you can follow me there and get notified if I go live. I don't, again, have an exact date for when that's going to be happening, but just check out those links below. Hopefully this has been helpful for you. If you have any questions, if there's anything that I can clarify for you, or if you think I said something really stupid, let me know in the comments below. On that note, have a wonderful day, and I'll talk to you later. Peace.